Hello, hello, everyone. How are you out there? I hope you're doing well. This is part two. Well, welcome to our realm. I am your host, Warrior in the Garden, aka Justin, and this is part two of What is a Cult? And I thought it'd be appropriate to play three of the cult's songs, and they don't get enough credit. I think they're kind of smashed in there between. Uh, you had Aerosmith, obviously, kind of the same look, kind of, and you had Typo Negative, and then there's a few other bands that kind of sounded similar, and I think they got washed out, and that I think they sounded better than most people, most of the bands at the time. So, anywho, let me see where we got going on here in the background. Nothing yet. Oh, I see he's in the background right there. I see him. Excellent. So I'm gonna get myself set up here. I am not quite set up the way I want to be, the way I like to be. So let me do that real quick here. And what is this? Okay. And then I want to bring this on screen. There we go. And there we go. Actually, okay, I gotta fix that filter. Okay, there we are. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good now. Oh, hold on a second here. I'm gonna pull myself into this and do it this way. So we're gonna do it this way. Turn my camera on. Okay, start camera. Yeah, that's what I want you to do. Wait, what the fuck? Sorry. That's so weird. My camera on my phone wanted to change and be the view, to be the
What?
actual camera instead of the one on my computer. That is so wild. Is my Bluetooth on? No, my Bluetooth is not on. Hold on, we're having some technical difficulties here, people. Hold on. Please,
Yeah, I'm
please be
still trying
patient.
to get my nest built.
Let's see here. Uh, yeah, that's correct. That setting is correct. Okay. I wonder why. Start camera. Yeah. Let's see here. I probably have to deactivate this one to start this one. Oh, imagine that.
Howdy.
Whoa, what's going on, everybody? Imagine that. If I deactivate my camera on OBS, it might just work in a different program.
Maybe.
Maybe it just might work, you know? So, everyone, welcome to another edition of About Realm, more specifically, What is a Cult, Part 2. Last week we talked about what is a cult. First of all, if you guys don't know who this is, he looks very different from the last time I even saw him in real life. He's got a lot of hair now, and I've got no hair now. So it's great. So how you doing, Gi? What's going on, buddy?
I am doing great, man. Just got back from vacation out of the Ozark Mountains yesterday. I'm feeling recharged and inspired. I got some good projects lined up that I'm going to be working on some history stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, life is good. How about you?
Oh, fantastic. I couldn't ask for. It's been busy. It's been busy. Lots of learning things this summer. Not a whole lot of saving money this summer. That's for sure.
Right.
The lessons I had to learn were that they were costly, and so it just sometimes it happens, and then the next time it comes around, you know what to do, and you're not spending an extra few $100s that you're not supposed to be spending. You're supposed to be putting in the savings, and
Yeah.
one thing after another. But generally, very good, very well. I'm blessed. I can't. I saw my sister and her four kids, and they've gone through a change a bit, and that was I'm still processing that, um, and more like they've gone kind of to the woke realm in a way.
Ah,
Yeah, and it's like I don't really know if I want to have those conversations, but again, they are human beings, and a conversation should be had despite what we personally feel, and
I
what of our feelings might hurt our feelings if we embrace someone who's not like us. Heavens to bid.
right. I agree with that. And there can be that emotional overswing, overcorrection, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. Like just like driving your car. If you start skidding, if you find yourself in a skid, it's the same way mentally. If you find yourself in a skid, you can often overcorrect and crash out, and it can be painful.
Well, I mean, honestly, what have that's one of the things that we find out when people are in cults and they get out of a cult and then they are looking for something else and then they just inadvertently tailspin, as you say, spin into overcorrect and then spin right into a different cult, not even
Right,
understanding it.
right,
You're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. A lot of people are guilty of this without even them knowing it. And so
right.
here's the crazy thing is that this the cold like mentality is what I'm finding out is meant to completely divide people and remove that communication, that humanism toward each other. And so part of my I don't know, I guess my I really don't know what my goal is at the end of this, but I do need to. I've called MAGA a cult, and so I do need to thoroughly go through and give examples and systematically show where MAGA is a cult. And it just with MAGA, it's with the other spectrum,
It's
the left, right, whatever it is, both extremes of the overture window here are
right,
where the problem is,
right.
and a lot of good people, I think, fall into that. They fall into these cults or these high ideological groups of small groups of people.
High
In
demand groups.
yeah, like inadvertently. I think some of them just fall into them inadvertently, accidentally, or not even on purpose. Maybe some on purpose, yes, but not so much because we're finding out that a lot of these cults they don't just have you know college dropouts or sorority
Oh no, no,
girls or
no, not
whatever
at
it is.
all.
We probably
Not at all.
doctors,
There's some
lawyers.
very intelligent people wind up in culty situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone whenever I've had the opportunity to talk to people in person. Is it's easier for me to have these conversations, but I I in my own research, in my own opinion, I think MAGA is more than a cult, but it's conglomeration of cults.
Mm-hmm.
So I am more than happy or was more than happy to accept your invitation for the night's discussion because it gives us the opportunity to address how different groups use very similar recruiting tactics,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whether it's philosophical, religious, or politically oriented,
Yeah. The
or, or
that's
even
the main thing I want
oriented.
to. Sorry, that's one thing I want to preface here is especially in episode part two here is that it's not a even though the word cult it comes with religious um, backing. That's where most people think of like a cult. Oh, well, you're in a crazy religious group. You're dancing with snakes, or you think that it's okay for one dude to have 25 wives or whatever it might be. But it's
Right.
not the case. It's not the case because the mentality of the cults. Okay, and we'll get into this. We'll get into. I have I think it's a 14-minute video to show you guys, and then we can talk about it afterwards. And it breaks down. So I'll retract here. The the cult mindset doesn't just stay with politics or with religion. It goes
Right.
into sports, our military industrial complex,
MLMs,
corporations. What? I'm sorry.
MLMs,
MLM. What are those MLMs?
multi-level marketing schemes.
Okay.
I actually have a video lined up
Okay.
for later, referencing circular logic when it comes to cults, multi-level marketing, and even conspiracy theories.
Okay.
And it draws the similarities. So
Fantastic. Yeah. So the idea here is, this one here is how the focus. Like last week was what is a cult, and so the idea is to hope to try to keep these within a couple hours, so it's easy for people to digest a little bit.
right,
So last week we talked about what is a cult and the construct of what a cult is. I showed 3 different videos, and so I hope people got a general idea of what they are. And again, some concepts will go into deeper than others. But for me, I'm going to continuously, whenever I come across an example of why I consider MAGA to be a cult, is because I'm going to stop a video and show you guys. All right, so if this people want to say, oh well, you're just on the left hand side, I'm like, okay, first of all, you're still in that left right paradigm, so get out of that, and then we can have a conversation.
Right,
So
because
yeah,
as soon as you can realize that everything, even the influence continuum that Dr. Hassan designed, it once you fit that bite model,
mm-hmm.
and then you look at the influence continuum, the organization, it's from beneficial to destructive.
Yeah,
Everything,
we're gonna
everything,
cover the bite model for a little bit.
yeah, and everything that's once you can accept that everything in life is on a spectrum, then it makes it easier to work through the research material.
Right, because there's the ultimately eh, everything from, I don't know if anybody's ever worked in a grocery store, but the method that cereal is sold, the multi-level marketing scheme, what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
cereal is sold in a very particular manner. People can be
Mm-hmm.
very in the cult of Coke or in the cult of Pepsi. They can be in one of those cults. They can even something as simple as that. Veganism, for example, can be a cult because there's a whole mindset and manipulation and all that kind of jazz.
Right.
Um, but uh, but yeah, so this is a ultimately at the end of the day, this is intended to help people, okay? Because the reality is that GI's gone through his process of understanding where he's gone and what he's gone, how he got into a cult and everything else. He's come to the realization mentally here and in his heart and all that kind of stuff of where he was at, his process, and where he is now. Okay, and so the same process here, people, can occur for anybody as long as you're willing to have the courage to do so, because it takes courage to do this. Okay, it takes courage to step away from a cult. It takes courage, and then to, most importantly, not to fall back into another cult. Into the same. You recognize you just keep repeating the same pattern and
Right.
somehow expecting a different result. That's insanity. So, um, the idea here is for me to, and hopefully future guests and as GI too, is to help people understand what a cult is, how it appeals to people, what are some of the signs to recognize the cult, and then if you're in a cult, how do you get out of it? Most importantly, so there is an in solution. Okay, so ultimately I have this show and the 2 more shows afterwards, and we might expand that a little bit more. But we'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens. But
One of the one of the things that I've picked up through listening to other people's exit stories and their recovery stories, my own experience, and then also working directly with other people who are working on their own recovery.
mm-hmm.
I recognize that again, we're coming back to a spectrum, that sort of concept. There is no one clear cut path for everybody's recovery.
That's right.
Everybody's recovery has to be different. I mean, you might have somebody who's doing recovery from hard drugs that also needs to abstain from everything else. And you might have somebody else that's like, nah, I need my flower.
Yeah.
I need my flower to help me get through the day. I can live without the rest. As long as I got my flower, we're good. And
Yep.
that may be the path for them, but it might not work for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the idea too. Is that like I said, some ideas we're going to go deep into. Some ideas we're not going to.
Right.
Again, this is it's more of an informational base.
Yes.
It's an idea to get hopefully to get the snowball effect going, to where one person hears it, it sinks in these ideas, these concepts. They see it in real life. They see it when I refer to MAGA, and um, and they ultimately is that person becoming an individual and transfer and walking out of the cave, seeing what is real, understanding that just because you're part of a group doesn't mean you have to accept the identity of the group, and
Right.
that's difficult to resist and to break away from if you're in it. So
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you, Pill Whisper. Appreciate you guys being here. There's not very many people here, but I do appreciate your time. Everyone's time is valuable. It's one thing that we all have a limited amount of. So, thank you very much.
True.
Please hit the share, the like, and subscribe to my stuff so you guys know when I'm live. All right. So hopefully I'm not being shadow banned so much that people are like, I have no idea you're going live. Oh my gosh. All I can see is your replays. I've gotten that a couple times, believe it or not.
I
So,
have no doubt.
but anyways, before we get too far into it, is there anything that you would like to cover as far as what I did on what is a cult on the
I
first
think
one?
you did a really good job. I greatly appreciated that you started with Dr. Hassan. His escape story from the Moonies is really important because Dr. Hassan's exit story, his crashing like that and being extracted by his family,
Mm,
is actually the same sort of exhaustion level that Doug Scott Kramer was at when he crashed out of Scientology. But it was Dr. Hassan's book, Breaking Cult Mind Control,
mm-hmm.
that actually helped Doug Kramer get out of Scientology.
Oh, that's that's amazing. That's amazing.
So I really appreciated that you started there, and that we're going to be using some of his tools. I
I
appreciate it.
remember when he came out with a book. What is it? The Cult of MAGA or something like that. He recently came out
Yeah,
with a book. It's not very thick. It's like I think it's less than 200 pages. But when he came out with a book, I just remember a lot of people going after him.
yeah.
In the community, within the MAGA community, hardcore, all the big namers were going after him, saying this is complete garbage. We're all here to save America.
Now I did have an interaction online with one of Dr. Hassan's followers
Hmm.
who seemed to view breaking cult mind control like a Bible.
Really?
So even Dr. Hassan, who talks about cults and cult mentality, has some individuals that look at him as some sort of savior,
Hmm.
and I don't know if he's aware of it.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
yeah, I found it rather troubling. But yeah, um, anyway,
Okay. No, you're good. I'm just trying
some
to.
some people can really become enthralled with those who help them find some new level of freedom or enlightenment or an improved self perspective.
Well, and that's. I'd like to or I'm gonna switch over to the video here, but yeah, that's one of the main things that when people are sucked into the cult of any cult, doesn't matter what it is, there is a loss of a sense of loss. They don't know where to belong. They're wandering, if you will. They're wandering spirits, if you will, and they feel disingenuous. Sorry, not disingenuous. They feel disconnected.
Right.
They feel as though there's no one like them. Um, and you can even go into the I've even seen this like in the LGBTQ community where like we have to have a month and then you need to accept us no matter what. There's no one understands me except for this small group of people who look
Right.
just like me. When and then anybody else who is not like me has got to be against me, and that's the same ideology if you
Right.
apply MAGA to it. Okay.
Right. And that's why I say extremism in any form is dangerous.
Yeah,
You know,
I do too. I agree. Excuse me. I agree.
but I've heard people within that community call out those extremists. We don't want them part of
Charismatic
us. We don't
leadership.
want them connected to us.
And
Kind of like kind of
as they
like
should.
kind of like I'm seeing a lot of Republicans. Well, there's a whole movement, Republicans against Trump. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want to give up their party, but they don't want to support their mask, their face, their
Well,
figure.
I'm sure you've seen this in your town, but what was it? I think it was this weekend. That was last weekend. Sorry, I saw people out protesting on the corner saying Republicans against fascism.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a fantastic mindset and a fantastic message to put across. But you're still believing in the left or right paradigm, and that's
Right.
that's the
Exactly.
that's the brainwashing, that's the occult mentality that people need to get at, and that's kind of what we're referring to on a larger scale. But see, the thing is that the enemy, the people who are against us, the people who want to enslave us, and all the bad guys, let's put the label the bad guys, okay, whatever
The
label you want
others.
to put on them, they understand the psychology of what we're talking about here as well,
Yes.
and they they perfected it. Okay, they perfected it in marketing, they perfected it in psychology, they perfected it in the medicine, they perfected it in social media, they perfected it, and I'm saying it has been perfected, and the mainstream media has been perfected, and the alternative mainstream media has been perfected. Why? It's because we have gatekeepers. We have people within certain levels, different levels of the community, that are claiming that they are the the truth sayers, that they are the arbiters of truth, or the um, one of them was a truth keeper. Yeah, that was I'm a truth keeper for this platform. I'm like, oh, wow, that's quite a narcissistic viewpoint right there, to say that you're the
So
arbiter of all truth on a platform.
so in other words, they were giving themselves an equivalency to Hemdall.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I'll
Wow.
tell you right now who it was. It was the average Joe Patriot who told me that. We were going back and forth.
Really?
Yeah, he told me that he was. Yeah, I don't. Again, the reason why I podcasted on Pilled is because I'm not here for Pilled or MAGA people, okay, or Q
Right.
or MAGA people, because they are at a point that the only way that they're going to break the mind control and the brainwashing is if they do it,
Right.
no matter what I say. So that's why I keep saying to people, I'm not here for MAGA, I'm not here for Q, but as soon as they want to have a conversation, I'm there. I'll do it, absolutely, without judgment, as much as I can. I'm a human, okay. Um, Oh yes, I forgot. Too far along. Feathers, the same bird. Yep. Tickles everyone's ears. Yeah, exactly. So okay. So without further
Exactly.
ado, let's
Yes.
go. Let's go ahead and get into this. We've been
Yeah.
been jacking my jaw here for what, a half an hour, probably something like that. Yeah, 20 minutes.
Close to it.
Long enough. Long enough.
We can talk all night.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm going to let's see here. I think it's this one. Yep, that one right there. And I'm gonna bring up this so I can.
Go ahead and mute up.
Where is it? Right here. Okay. All right. So I went ahead and looked around. I like visual aids, guys. I'm a visual aid learner. So this one right here, I think, does a nice job at breaking down um, what we're talking about tonight. Okay. I've scoured the large platforms, and to me, at this point, it doesn't really matter what platform you get your information on, because you should be able to use your discernment to find to identify what is good information, what's not good information. So um, this right here is every cult manipulation techniques explained in 14 minutes. Again, we're doing an overview of this kind of stuff, and we'll be stopping here as well after each one of these sections, people, because I think it's important, especially if I'm sitting here making claims that MAGA is a cult, broadly and boldly. Then I need to be able to show specific examples, tell you specific examples of what it is, and so if people don't want to believe it, they don't want to believe it. So, but anyways, yeah, I can't. There's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. So here we go. Enjoy, and hopefully you guys will learn something.
Charismatic leadership. Jim Jones's charismatic approach as a leader was one of the reasons why he pulled a lot of followers to the People's Temple, eventually leading to one of the biggest mass suicides in history, killing over 900 people. Charismatic leadership in cults is like a magnet that pulls metal shavings. This process taps into cognitive dissonance and social identity theory, making it difficult for followers to question the leaders or leave the cult due to their strong desire for group consistency and identity. Instead, cult leaders use charm and persuasive words to compel and captivate followers into believing their vision. This leads to a devoted group of people dying for their cause. Their words are so profound that they can exert influence over the lives of their supporters. Cult leaders usually have magnetic personalities that make them confident and charming. They know how to captivate followers using tales that can mesmerize their audiences and keep them glued through the promise of eternal salvation and a sense.
So one of the stories that pops up to my mind is whenever Trump was saying he did the snake story. You know, silly lady, you knew I was a snake when you let me in. What are you
Right.
doing? You know, so so when we talk about charismatic, I'll bring you guys up on the screen here. When we talk about charismatic characters, that's exactly what we're talking about there. We're talking about people um, who are in a state of they're showboating almost all the time. They're always in character. Okay, charismatic individuals, just because you have a lot of money. Just because you have a lot of money, it makes you automatically charismatic. Now, if you have a good personality to go with that, you can also manipulate people. For example, when I was in college, I was 165 pounds of raw steel sex appeal, and I had dimples on my face and blue eyes, and I was able to get a lot of girls through my charisma. And do I feel good about that? No, no, I was a whore. All right, I have to admit it, I was a whore. That's a way of manipulation, right there. It's a way of it's a cult-like mentality, is what I had. Okay, by manipulating charismatically women to sleep with them. That's what I did. Most men do this whether they realize it or not. Most women do this whether they realize it or not. Women are charismatic in different ways than men are. Okay, and the manipulation goes both ways. But in this one here, they're using a lot of religious examples in this video here, but the apply it politically as well, and that's all I ask. Okay, so here we go. I'm so discombobulated right now. I think we just there it is. I can just minimize the screen and bring this one back up here. Nope, not that one. Where is it? Nope, not that one. Son of a gun. Nope, not that one. Oh my goodness, where'd it go? I didn't delete it, did I? Okay, here we go. Jeez Louise, I don't know what happened. A glitch in the Matrix, perhaps. I blame the liberals for it. Blah, 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 blah. Chi-coms. I'm joking.
Of belonging. However, behind that curtain of charisma is a manipulative leader who acts like a spider luring insects with a web of lies that will eventually trap them. Before they realize they're doomed, it's already too late for the followers because their leader's silver tongue already traps them. Groupthink and conformity. Groupthink and conformity functions can...
Oh, okay, so all right, that was the first one. Charismatic leaders. I'll get the up here. Charismatic leaders. Now, whether in your experience, like when you were in a cult, what did you think about the pastor? Like, how did it make you feel? And were you drawn to his fire at the pulpit, like Pastor Greg Locke?
The pastor I had growing up, he wasn't nearly as fiery as Greg Locke.
Okay.
I mean, I was attending the Assemblies of God Church in the 1970s, so things were just really starting to get going. Ken Copeland was just really taking off because I think he got started in the ministry like 70 or 71,
Mm-hmm.
and my parents got pulled in like I want to say 73 or 74. And we were in Southwest Missouri, and Ken Copeland would frequently speak in Joplin.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad would go up there to hear him speak. But yeah, and then within a few years after that, we got cable television, and our preacher was always telling us go watch 700 Club. And, it was all that. It was all that, and that was the kind of thing. I mean, yeah, our preacher was hellfire and brimstone. He grew up Southern Baptist.
Yes,
And
so
then
naturally.
after a stint in Korea with the Marine Corps, assigned to the mailroom. Well, he grew up making church furniture. He was a carpenter specializing in building pews. And then he signed up for the Marine Corps, went out to Korea. They stuck him in a mailroom somewhere, and then he came home and went to seminary. And somewhere along the way, he transitioned from Southern Baptist to AOG. And he was real good about our othering doctrine of our views of other denominations. But we thought we were we were King James only, and we thought we had the true understanding. And and the Southern Baptists were almost close enough. They just didn't have the baptism of the Holy Spirit. If they could just get that, they'd be right.
Okay,
So we
so you hear, even within religious cults or more extreme parts of Christianity than the others, we see the same thing in Islam, except in Islam they kill you. Or there's a big difference here in Christianity. We're not going to sit there and go, well, Methodists, you guys over there, you don't have it quite like the Baptists do. The Baptists have got it right. They start speaking in tongues and dancing in the hall aisles and stuff like that. Then you got to go Southern Baptist if you really want to get understand and feel the Holy Spirit. No,
right.
that's right. So where else have we heard that you're not in the know, or you're not listening to this kind of stuff, so you don't understand? We've heard that in the community, MAGA community. I've heard that in the Q community. Well, you just don't understand. Well, explain it to me.
All right.
I've only had one person to actually give me the opportunity to try to explain it to me. So, I'm open for people to send me information or show me how to do something. Absolutely. I'm one person. I can only get so much information in my head at one time.
Right.
But when I start to hear the same rhetoric and speak the same type of sentence cadence, when I start to hear and see behaviors that are in religious cults and that are in political cults, when I start to see those two, I start to make connections, and most people should, because the you just replace one word, what we're talking about, religion, with politics, because to a lot of people, politics has become a religion, has become who they are, their id, it's their ego. All of us have an ego. I'm not gonna lie, all of us do, but I think the ones of us that can control it, I think is better. Go ahead.
You could put anything in that blank. I mean, Harley versus Honda, Chevy versus Ford, Mack versus
Yes.
Peterbilt.
Yes, precisely.
And then, like you mentioned earlier, the sports thing. Anything where you have competitive labels.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I quite often, well, back when I was in college, I came up with the concept to refer to malls as the temple of the label.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. That's pretty good.
There's some people that will only wear brands that you can only buy at the mall.
Well, yeah, because we have an entire culture that's obsessed with brands and
Yeah,
the way that things look, the way that you look in a particular manner in certain people's eyes and stuff. Yeah, so that makes total sense. Yeah,
yeah.
but no, the idea that it could ever seep into MAGA is a complete farce, right? People, come on, come on, come on, right? If it can get into a fashion, if it can get into cereal, people are selling cereal. It can get into a political ideology. Okay, so
Right,
again,
right.
these concepts they go wide and they go deep, but
Mhm.
because they do, because you can apply it to anything. All right. So, anyways, moving on. Sorry, moving on to the
Yes.
next section here.
Can be seen in how fashion becomes a thing. When you see everyone wearing the same style of hat, even if you don't like the hat, you'll be pressured to buy the hat because you want to conform to society and fit in instead of standing out. This pressure to conform is similar to what happens in cults. Even if a particular cult's views contradict your values, you'll be pressured to adopt the same beliefs and behaviors. You want to conform to the same beliefs that people around you follow because you want to conform to the group.
Okay, so when it comes to ideology, or not ideology, but when it comes to thinking here, the red hat, for example. If anybody's done research about the red hat, I encourage you to do so in history, and where red hats have also, identified people, red bandanas around their neck. Where does it, hence why you get the word redneck, okay? Because it was do the research on that kind of stuff, okay? So it's easy when cults go into identifying themselves, and this happens with the military too. Okay, they all wear the same uniform, and it takes away a little bit of your identity and who you are as an individual when you take off the uniform, because you still look, you still dress. There's still certain levels of conduct you can do outside of the uniform or within the uniform. So there are rules and regulations.
Even
Even
amongst
Go ahead.
even amongst nonconformists,
Yes.
punk rockers.
Yeah, the punk rock music industry in the mid early '80s when it first started, especially well here in America, I should say, because it started in the late '70s over in England. You had these nonconformist people who were now I just call them hot topic wannabes. But the thing is about back in the day is when you were a punk rocker, you were most likely an anarchist. You're against the establishment. You're against the two party political system. You saw the corporation takeover. You saw the injustices and you were fighting against it. Inevitably, those rockers in the 80s or in the early 80s when they became in their 40s, all of a sudden they flipped on you. So
Yeah.
instead of being revolutionary or being revolutionist in their music and stuff, they became anti-revolution and just to grow with the establishment. I mean, look at Henry Rollins, for example. When he was in Black Flag, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. But yeah, so again, it goes wide, okay? Because it goes wide and goes deep in a lot of different things. But with the punk movement, a lot of people felt disingenuous. They felt disenfranchised from a lot of the disenfranchised is the right word, not disingenuous, because they're genuine about their frustration and their fear and their hatred and dislike and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't know how to get it out, and so the music and the rawness and the ugliness and the lyrics is what brought people together. That's just one music genre, guys. You
Yeah.
know, and so you see how like in that culture, they developed almost like a social hierarchy without even really knowing it. And this because the more you show up to the bands, the more they know you. If you got in a fist fight with Henry Rollins, you were known. It was almost like at a punk band. If you went to a punk rock, like an actual punk rock concert, it was customary to walk out of there bleeding in some way. I mean, if you didn't walk out there with a busted nose or an eye or a lip or something, you didn't do it right. You're not,
Yeah.
you were obviously a wallflower. You didn't get in the circle of it. So
Scars tell stories.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But anyways, let's
Yeah.
move on to the next topic here.
Group standards. This is often present in smaller, isolated communities. Even if you're not necessarily a devout believer, you want to feel accepted and avoid conflict. That's how groupthink occurs. People prioritize consensus and harmony instead of contradicting the views of certain members of the same group. So, in a cult, contradictions and doubts are suppressed in favor of groupthink to promote unity. Psychological manipulation techniques.
Okay, so we definitely see that with the people not willing to have a conversation. Oops, here. People not willing to have a conversation with those outside their group. So, like I said, MAGA will only have conversation with people within MAGA. Q, except with the exception of one, Q will not have any conversation outside of people who, because then they're at a, also too, like when you're in a cult of this kind of nature, you have this mentality that you are given specific information pervy only to you, and that's a problem, because if it can't be distributed massively and freely for people, then I'm automatic red flags go up for me. So what about you?
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially if somebody tells me that, oh, I've got this really special information for you, but you got to give me money.
Oh, those are the worst.
Yeah, I'm off in a different direction.
Yes.
Okay, who is this cat? What are they up to?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
or
anytime,
any kind of paywall. I look
yeah,
at any kind of paywall as I don't care if it's just for subscribers or what it is. It's still an aspect of information where you're not sharing it openly and freely with people, and I think people should.
well, and another view or another take on that paywall would be like having to pay for some sort of courses, like to
Hmm.
progress through Scientology
Sure.
or to learn some special spiritual skill, whether it's a New Age thing or
Hmm.
somebody over there in the New Apostolic Reformation that's going to tell you how to get to the third level of heaven through whatever ritual it is. Buy my book, buy my CD, and
Or we can just be like
Yeah,
Paula White and charge people $1,000 for an angel to be looking
right,
over them
right.
and be again, people. I've already gone over this with Paula White before. I've shown you guys this video of Paula White, and the thing is that if she's out there charging people on her profit prophecy, if she's charging people $1,000 to have the good Creator come down and send an angel to watch over you, you're being extorted. Okay,
Actually, Paula White is one of the key components to the beginning of my deconstruction.
good. That's awesome.
When because it's like I'm running back through some stuff. I'm starting to see some things, and I was like, this isn't adding up. Something's just not clicking for me. And I stumbled across Paula White calling down. I hear the sound of the abundance of rain. I'm like,
Strike and
wait, wait,
strike and
wait.
strike and strike and
Yeah, I'm
strike.
like, wait, wait, wait. I have seen this around a bonfire at a pagan event. What is going on here? And it was just that was. It was shortly after that I learned to stop asking. So what am I going to learn next? What next? Because it
Yep.
just every time I asked what next, it was like Hoover Dam cracked open again.
Sometimes it is. I'm gonna stop asking what's next. I'm just gonna stop asking questions for right now. I'm
I
just
need to clean this mess up first. And yeah, it's wild.
yeah. It really is.
And
So
every now and again, I pick up a piece and it clicks in with 15 other pieces. And it helps like readjust my focus on the bigger picture. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, yeah. That's important to even to have these conversations that we're doing right now. Is
Yeah.
there's gonna be things because I'm writing notes down in the background of how I want to handle next week
All
and
right.
how I want to handle on the week after that. So, but anyways, let's go ahead and get back to this,
All
and
right.
I will we'll try to get this done in a reasonable time here.
Cult leaders use invisible strings that come in the form of psychological manipulation techniques. It's like they're master puppeteers who make their followers dance at will and make them do things they wouldn't normally do had it not been for the cult leaders' manipulative tactics. Charles Manson used his psychological manipulation techniques to gather followers into his family. He manipulated their vulnerabilities by promising them salvation if they would trigger his.
Okay, here's another example, people. When Trump comes on and says, "I'm taking all the slings and arrows for you," or whenever he says, "I'm draining the swamp, I'm doing it for you," no, he's not. He's an egotistical man who is his entire life he has been self-grandizing his entire existence, especially after the extreme mental and probably physical abuse he received from his father for the first 13 years of his life before he was shipped off to boarding school. So, but anyways, when you're in a like mental manipulation is kind of the topic right now we're talking about. When you're in a group, so mental manipulation is, well, let's just do it most recently for those that, and I'm paraphrasing here from Trump. Those who believe that the Epstein files are real are weak-minded, stupid, and dumb. That is a form of manipulation in a negative way because some people either walk away, but the most devout people we will see, the ones that have like the Red Pill Ken, Average Joe Patriot, anybody who has massive amounts of flags in their background, even MacForce to an extent. People who have these massive amounts of flags and decorations, and they wear the apparel, the hats, the shirts, and stuff like that. That is there's a form of mental manipulation when it comes to putting a part of your identity, part of who you are, your id, into that concept. You're giving away some of who you are through this mental manipulation, whether it be positive or negative. All right. So the idea of mental manipulation, I'm an outsider. Trump was not an outsider. Okay. So that's another way of mental manipulation. He's like, I'm just a billionaire. I love you guys. One of his favorite, even 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 voting is still I still believe is a level of mental manipulation. When he said when Trump came out and said you won't have to vote again. I love you Christians. I'm not a Christian. Just go out and vote one more time. It'll be fixed. I promise. That's a way of that's a mental manipulation. It's giving you high expectations and high hopes, and it gives you that hopium that we talk about so much,
Hmm.
and and to a point where people are worked up into a frenzy in a way where they're willing to take that mental abuse in order to in order to uh, get the end result that they want, or to think that they're going to get the end result they want. Okay.
I I actually grew up in that sort of mental control environment in church. That charismatic evangelicalism
Mm-hmm.
where, I mean, we didn't do like self-flagellation physically, but we mentally were like always concerned if we had some hidden sin, because if we did, we might miss the rapture, and we don't want to go through the tribulation. And
Oh hell, when I mean for me, it was really bad because I was entering puberty, and when I was more heavy in the church, and so any kind of sinful thought of like, oh, that girl's ass looks really nice, sinful thought going to hell. You know,
10 to
I
18,
I
10 to 18.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, how am I supposed to? No wonder why people are so emotionally retarded, and not in the way like, oh, that person's dumb and stupid, retarded. I'm talking about the dictionary definition of retarded, where people are slowed and they're underdeveloped. Okay, like for example, when COVID came out, we have another set of mental manipulation. Okay, is Operation Warp Speed. Trump did that. It was his administration that locked people down. People are like, well, he didn't make you take the jab. Well, no, but the corporations that liked him were telling their employees. The military was even doing that. I mean, come on. I don't
and
care.
and
So
Operation Warp Speed evolved into ARPA H, all
yeah,
powered by Palantir.
yeah, exactly. And so but people don't want to see that kind of stuff. That's the manipulation.
Right.
That's because it's like, oh, Trump. He. If here's the example of a great mental manipulation, which I still hear today coming from the MAGA community. Um, is that if we would have been locked down for years if he didn't do what he was supposed to do because his family was in danger, and we have no evidence of that. He came out and said, I saved millions of lives. I guess you can call me the father of the vaccine. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, there's no evidence that you saved millions of lives, first of all, but there's a shit ton of evidence saying that Operation Warp Speed and this vaccine, this mRNA vaccine, killed a shit ton of people worldwide. All right. So don't his whole attitude. Well, we were saving lives with this vaccine and all that kind of stuff. No, no, no. That's mental manipulation. It's playing on your emotions, playing on your heartstrings. People. A lot of people are not. I'm not going to say refuse, but a lot of people do not want to look at the fact that Trump started Operation Warp Speed. He put into place everything that the Biden administration enacted. Okay. So we went from under Trump. We went from. I mean, I'll quote Dustin Nemos here. We went from to lock her up to locking you down for 2 weeks.
And it was either 2012 or 2013 when DARPA ran, oh, what was that called again? Operation Green something, but it was a proof of concept where they could generate plant-based vaccines, and through just this one facility that they had in Texas at that point in time, they could generate 1 million doses of a vaccine every month, and it was designed so that they could switch up the vaccine batches quickly. I'm trying to remember what that was. Operation Green something.
Probably Palantir based AI or
Oh,
OpenAI.
well, no, it was a the. Let me see if I can find the video. Why
Okay.
don't you go ahead and work on that other? I'll see if I can find it, and
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
pull it
So
up later. I'll drop a link.
yep, that'll work. That'll work. It's fine. So again, people, the mental manipulation, it goes. Um, it doesn't just go from Trump. It works on both sides. Okay, because of late I've been listening to a wide spectrum of people's opinions about this Epstein thing, and you can definitely tell um, which organizations or which type of people are manipulating you through their rhetoric and which ones are not. You know what I'm saying? I'm not on camera. You're not. You won't be on camera, so you're good. You point that toward me a little bit. Thanks. It's just warm in here. Perfect. Thank you.
Because all the hot air.
Ah ha ha ha. I just got dogged. I guys got so I yeah. So I was I texted my gal to come in and turn the fan on high and point it toward me, and so she came in and she's like, "It's a little warm in here." I said, "Well, yeah," and she's like, "It's because of all your hot air." Oh, woo!
Bazinga.
Okay, so
Bazinga!
what I was thinking of is DARPA's Project Greenbacks.
Okay.
It's 2011. So yeah, you can make a note of that. But that's 2011. That's well before, and it's a whole. You can check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
greenback. You said.
Project Greenbacks on. If you go to the DARPA TV channel on YouTube, they originally posted about it 14 years ago. So yeah, that would have been 2011.
Greenback. Okay. Cool.
But they were generating they just with this one facility they were able to generate 1 million doses of the vaccine in a month, and they were also able to transition batches quickly. So
That's insane.
yeah, so I think it was set it may have been set up well before some people were thinking.
I don't doubt that at all. I'm coming to find out that a lot, even these like these vaccine operations are 10 years in advance. What was it? Agenda 2021. They had that. That was planned out. They did a mock trial, I think, with the H1N1 virus back in 2012, 2013 to 11. So only 20, somewhere
Something
around
like
there,
that.
the swine flu came out, H1N1 or H2N2 or whatever it was. There was a mock trial of that prior to that operation being released, and then we had 2021, and that just turned out to be COVID.
Right.
So I mean, again, this mental manipulation of things that were, and again, people, just like you said in the church, fire and brimstone, guilt is usually one that they
Same.
mentally manipulate you.
Yeah.
When you in politics, when it's mental manipulation, it is this side is out to get you, and they want to take away X, Y, and Z. All right, we hear that we hear the LGBT community wants to take away your kids, and they want to change your kids to trans, and that's mental manipulation right there. Okay, then we have the same way within with the trans in the military as well. If you actually look at the numbers of who is trans in the military, out of out of out of I think like 50,000 people, 11 of them are.
It's very
It's a
manipulative.
0.00001% of the fucking population out of 50,000 that were interviewed. Okay, so like when I looked at this objectively and this whole, it's like if you want to be if that's what you want to do, fill your fucking boots. I don't care. Whatever. Okay, just leave me out of it. Leave me out of your decisions of what you want to do with your life. Okay, because I'm just not. It's not my bag. It's not me. I don't feel comfortable. The people give me a bad vibe. All that kind of stuff. But it's just me. Um, but
And that's okay. I happen to have 3 friends that are transgender.
right, and then the thing is, the people that I've interacted with, maybe they're just assholes too.
That's possible.
And it's just
That's possible
yeah.
because one of my transgender friends, her dad was a cult leader. That's
Oh wow,
yeah.
that's
It,
that's a hell of a combo right there.
yeah. She's got an intense story. Not my story to tell, but she's an amazing person. But she actively speaks out against these trans people that have taken it too far.
Hmm.
Yaya
Yeah.
personally, Yaya personally believes that the idea of gender affirming care has been taken to a ridiculous level because it's gotten to a point where, okay, well, you want to knock gender affirming care over there. You went and got hair plugs, didn't you? You got your man boobs cut off, didn't you? You're taking testosterone to boost you. How is that not gender affirming care?
Mm. That's
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
and when you get to the point where the absurdities are having to be pushed that far, because the ideologies, the mental manipulation,
Hmm.
that you have to fight absurdity with absurdity, and it still doesn't get through.
Well, I'll even give you a more recent example that happened last summer, as a matter of fact. The Butler, Pennsylvania, quote unquote assassination attempt on Trump.
Hmm.
There's a lot of us who immediately, as we saw it, was like, nope, that's fake. That's automatically
We,
fake, and I don't care who you are. If now you have to tell me it's not fake. You know what I'm saying? Oh well, people died. Well, do you think that 9/11 was an inside fake job? Well, yeah. And how many people died there? 3,000. Yeah. So don't give me this emotional manipulation crap of, oh, someone died. It was a fireman trying to protect his wife. The people in charge of this kind of stuff, they don't care about your life. So one person dying or two people dying or three or four, they don't care. They don't care. And a majority of these people who are in charge of these operations are within our government. And do you think they care about us? No, they do not. So, mental manipulation. The what was it? His right ear, the pillow over his right ear that he had, Trump had after he supposedly got shot. The immaculate reconstruction of his ear within a 48-hour period that he had, with his mental manipulation.
right.
There's his fight, fight, fight with, there was so much blood. There was blood everywhere. Oh my gosh, there was so much blood. That whole thing was a lie because we have several pictures from multiple angles and video showing that there was not a single drop of blood on his cuff, his white t-shirt, his white shirt cuff, or his white shirt collar. I don't know if you guys have ever I have gauges in my ear. Okay, if you get your ear nicked or stabbed, I see exactly. So if you get your ear nicked or something like that, this is all cartilage. It's gonna bleed for a while. Okay, before it stops.
And it's not, and the cartilage doesn't heal up.
No, it doesn't. Well, look at Evander Holyfield's ear.
Right.
After Mike Tyson took a chunk out of it in 90, was it 96 or 97? I think so,
Something like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Evander Holyfield, even though they recovered the chunk of ear and put it on ice, he still didn't want it the surgery. But even years and years and years and years and years later, his ear still had indentions where his Mike Tyson's teeth took a chunk out of his ear.
Hmm.
When you look at Trump's ear today, you don't see an indentation at all. I mean, you're supposed to see a little something, a nick or something in his ear. You don't see that at all. The day after he got, the weekend after he got shot, he went, supposedly got shot. He went to the golf course, golfing. No patch on his head, no bandage. But yeah, then he had the National Republican Convention. Oh, and oh boy, people were there all in solidarity for him. Of, oh man, he got shot. That's mental manipulation right there. The idea that he got shot when he really didn't. Forensic science say it. People who actually fired firearms say it. The size of the bullet and the angle of which he supposedly turned his head tells me otherwise. I mean,
Right.
just the
Well,
fucking math doesn't even come out right.
and then to hear the idea promoted that, oh, God saved Trump. Yeah, but why did he save Trump to take the firemen? Why?
It was it a quid pro quo?
Right. Where? Um,
You got it. That's some of
it
the
was
that's some of the mental manipulation right there. God saved
that.
him, and it was an unfortunate thing that a fireman died.
Right. My Amy and I started binge watching the Twilight Zone series. Started back with the very first
Oh,
episode.
like
I
in
forget.
'60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like as far back as it goes on Apple TV. But I was like the second or third episode. This dude has to make a deal with death. Well, I'm never. Well, that's like, well, when you can give me a pitch, you can live until you can make me a perfect pitch. But I have to take somebody. And so he's going to take this little girl. And in like that last half hour, this guy makes the sales pitch of his life.
Hmm.
And he sells death, all this stuff. And he wanted, his only dream was to have a pitch so good that he could sell something to an angel. And he finally did that because he wanted to be able to go instead of the little girl going. There was that mental manipulation. Yeah, sure. I'll let you stay for 1,000 years, but I got to take somebody back with me.
Mm-hmm.
But he had enough heart that he had that change.
Yeah, that's those I like those the twist of the moral, the what the almost like the human spirit tends to shine in those
Yeah,
sometimes in those moments. You know,
yeah.
your true character comes out. So, but okay, back to the video here, manipulation, and then we will go try and get this video finished here on, and then
Right.
hopefully onto your video. So here we go.
Apocalyptic visions, which would elevate him to messianic status. Other than that, cult leaders are also known for using sneaky tactics, including love bombing, where they make their followers feel loved by giving them attention. A love-bombed recruit will feel unique.
Does that sound familiar, people? Everybody in the MAGA community. Hey, I love. Hey, what's up, fam? What's going on? Hey, woo, yeah. Where we go on, we go all. Woo.
Enough to join the cult, just like how a naive teenager can fall for flowers and chocolates. Some cult leaders use control over basic needs to manipulate their members psychologically. Others also use fear to their advantage. It can come in the form of punishments from the leaders. Sometimes they convince their followers of an impending doom, causing them to fall in line out of fear. Psychological manipulation is the forte of an expert cult leader who knows the specific techniques that can force his followers to obey unquestionably. The role of isolation. A cult leader's isolation tactics work like an island that strands cult members in a secluded and isolated area with nowhere else to go. They trap supporters in a proverbial fortress to shield them from any influences.
Okay, alrighty. This needs to be discussed real quick here as well. Is they isolate you, okay? And this happened to me, and I'm sure this happened to you as well. This is a prime example. Scientology, Mormon, the Church of Mormon. They both of them huge amount of isolation within just those religions of itself. Within politics, where our wheelhouse is right now, I experienced this myself. Is that when I was on the Trump train, I thought anybody who was dissenting was an idiot. I'm like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. How do you not see what's going on? You know, people calling people Trump idiots, and then what do? We go to that leader's defense. Another form of mental manipulation, but also a form of isolation, is because of that. Me being on the Trump train, I was isolated from my neighbors. I was isolated from family members. I was isolated from having, in society in general, having general conversations because of the noise that MAGA creates, and it's not cheering; it's noise. So, anyways, what do you think?
Um, yeah, I completely agree with you on that because it was a very similar situation for me. You know, for example, a neighbor that I had when I was like actually riding the Trump train with my dad. I mean, we were in the convoys driving across the
Mm-hmm.
countryside,
Yeah.
and I saw one of the neighbors across the street, and he was wearing a polo shirt with an American Legion patch on, or embroidery on it. It was Flag Day. He was getting ready to go down to the courthouse for Flag Day ceremony. It was Trump's birthday. And I mentioned that to him, and he's like, "Yeah, that's the only bad thing about today," and then like stumbled off. Before I closed on my house, I got an opportunity to talk to him and his wife, and we had a great conversation. He was glad to hear that I'd had a change of mind,
Good.
a change of heart, and was moving in a more constructive direction with my life.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So,
That's good.
but yeah,
Yeah, and people they also made the same comment in me. As soon as I started recognizing that MAGA, well, the worship of a man, the mental manipulation of worshiping the man, and the isolation that it was with that comes. Um, I started seeing that, and so not necessarily in those words exactly, but I started seeing the worship of Trump, and I was like, this doesn't feel right to me. And so that's why when I started
right.
taking my separation and then taking 2 months to detox from the news altogether, and then I was able to see things for what they really are. And it's, man, it's the brainwashing is phenomenal. I mean, it gets you on every level. You know what I'm saying?
The way yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And what I did for myself, I could not completely disconnect from the news cycle. I
It is
could
difficult.
not, you know. So what I did was I highly limited my interaction with the news cycle.
Hmm.
But because of my thirst for information, I filled that other gap with research. And oh boy, howdy, as soon as I found out about William Branham, there was so much to learn. So much to learn. And it's been a wonderful adventure. And actually, I got a project that I've got coming up. You might come in helpful on some of it. We can talk about that another time.
Yeah, we'll
But
talk offline about that.
yeah,
Because I'm trying to, I don't know, I'm trying to do more these kind of projects, work them into various types of my shows that I do. All
well, what
8 or 9 different shows. I mean,
yeah, well, I'm thinking more like picking your brain because
oh yeah,
I'm working on a timeline project, but it's like several different timelines,
okay,
and I'm getting ready to braid all of them together. So right now I'm gonna need like 4 or 5 notebooks laid out side by side so I can track all these subjects that I'm getting ready to weave together in a series of videos.
okay,
And it's like there's gonna be history and anyway, moving on.
yeah. We'll get offline,
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that even like a face to face like this, but just not broadcasting.
yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I enjoy that kind of stuff. So, all right, guys, let's go back to the video because we are jacking our jaw way too much. We're not even halfway through this here. So, let me go ahead and get this video going for you guys. Here it is.
From the outside world, making it harder for them to see the opinions of those who aren't part of their organization. When a member is physically, mentally, and emotionally isolated within a cult, opposing opinions and differing views regarding some issues will be challenging to come by. Their only opinions come from their leaders and fellow members, forcing them to have only one worldview. So if the only information that the members know about a specific topic is the one that their leaders feed them, they are more likely to stay loyal to the group, believing that the cult's ideology is the only truth. Moreover, isolation tactics also give the members a sense of exclusivity that makes them feel special. It's like the cult gives them the impression that they are in an ivory tower, but are, in reality, trapped in a jail cell of manipulation.
What I find is the Q people are like this, and how they feel as though they are pervy to a specific set of information that nobody else is, and for whatever reason they have a hard time explaining that. You know what I mean? So, anyways, here we go.
Jim Jones famously employed such tactics on his followers, especially after he moved them to his Jonestown compound, physically and mentally isolating them from the rest of society. The appeal to disenfranchised individuals. David Berg's Children of God grew because he targeted youth members of countercultural movements during the 60s and 70s. He appealed to their disenfranchised.
This is a key point right here because a lot one of the major topics to get people going on a going to a cult is this the people feel disenfranchised. They feel as though society has pushed them out and isolated them to a point where that's where they're mentally weaker and more susceptible to just regular normal people being more susceptible to joining a cult or listening to it or slowly sliding into it, or all of a sudden they realize that they're on a compound in Florida somewhere. Some extreme as that. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, here we go.
From society to create a cult with loyal followers. A cult leader who tries to appeal to disenfranchised individuals attacks their feelings of loneliness and helplessness. They look for people who have lost faith in society or have become disenfranchised from the everyday workings of the world. It's like how rebel groups look for recruits with the same hatred for the government. From there, the cult leader gives the recruits a place to feel like they belong. They make them feel understood and at home, making them feel that the cult is the only place where they can be themselves. Someone who has a sense of belonging is more likely to stay loyal to the person who gave it to them. In this case, it's the cult leader. In short, cults prey on vulnerable people who are still searching for meaning in their lives. Cults lure them with the promise of love, family, and acceptance, only for them to end up getting manipulated into doing all sorts of crazy things for the sake of belonging. Identity reconstruction. Identity reconstruction was another tactic that Charles Manson used to create a cult of loyal followers willing to kill for him. He reshaped their sense of self and instilled allegiance to his twisted beliefs. When a cult leader uses identity reconstruction, they reshape and twist the beliefs and sense of identity.
So that's a big one right there too, the sense of identity. I've spoken about this, and prior to me doing any research, I've spoken about damn near almost all of these topics without me even really knowing I was hitting these topics. The disenfranchisement, and then what was the what was the topic we just talked about? Identity reconstruction. The military is a perfect example of identity reconstruction.
Yes, it is.
Perfect example. So, especially within politics here, you have the blanketed term of Republicans or Democrats, and then it's fractured down into the more specific groups, if you will. But when we see people, because I've seen this happen, as people do more podcasting and they're gaining followers, or they're just doing what they're doing. I've noticed in the backgrounds they'll have more stuff, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of having the flags hanging up and the different shit in the background before I went to a green screen to where I can manipulate it the way I want it to. So it's not like I'm just pointing my fingers at people and saying, you guys are bad, bad, bad. Everything that I'm saying to you guys, I've inward reflected on, and I've gone through these changes by myself, recognizing what it is, identifying the problem, and then eradicating the problem. Okay, I've done this before. So it's breaking from a cult. I think my personal experience is no different than breaking an addiction. Same mentality. Same. I think that you go through the withdrawals. The same type of addiction, whether it be Coca-Cola or Hershey Kisses, or sex, or hardcore drugs, or pornography, whatever it is. The mind still operates and lights up in the same fashion for your addictions.
Yes, it does.
And so when people are in a vulnerable mental state, or they're mentally immature, they're going to be more susceptible to this type of behavior. Now,
exhaustion.
Exactly. What did we see during the why Trump won in 2016? We saw people were exhausted. They had the Clintons, and then they had Bush, and then they had Obama for 8 years, and we had been already in war for almost for 15. Well, no, to the back, for over 10 years at that time.
Yeah.
And people were just exhausted with the political scheme, and so they decided that Trump came on there and he was like, oh my gosh, he's a breath of fresh air, and this is what we need as a country, and let's get behind him. And had a wonderful message. I mean, and if anybody's actually done their research, we've seen several times that politicians and former presidents have used the "Make America Great Again" phrase. It's a Barnum phrase. So if you guys out there have not seen Barnum's World, please go watch it. It's just like the Barnum Circus, Barnum's World. These catchphrases that we get, where we go one, we go all. Taking the slings and arrows, build the wall, deport the illegals. Drill, baby, drill is another one that is a Barnum phrase. Those phrases that get you emotionally charged and want to, or as some other people call it, a Cambridge Analytic speech, is that, and with Palantir, or excuse me, with OpenAI, which is Peter Thiel, scraping the internet for certain keywords that people are using. I mean, it's not rocket science on how the manipulation occurs, well, what is rocket science is that people can't see it. That's what really gets me. So let's go back to this video here. Let's see. I'm gonna run it for a little bit, so we can catch up because we're about we're not even halfway through. I'm gonna let the next two sections run through before I say anything.
Sounds great.
All right, here we go.
Identity of their recruits, according to the cult's beliefs and norms. It's like you're playing with Lego bricks to create a house, but someone comes in and uses the same bricks to rearrange them to create an entirely different structure. The new structure is still made out of the same Lego bricks, but is no longer recognizable from the old one. In the same way, cult leaders simply use a person's values to reconstruct a new person that adheres to their beliefs. For example, if a person feels lost in society because he has no place in the modern world, the cult leader uses that vulnerability to reconstruct a new identity that hates society. Cult members who have identities tied to the cult itself are more likely to commit extreme acts to protect their sense of identity and beliefs. The process can be subtle yet coercive, allowing leaders to use different ways to break their members' personalities and sense of individuality to force them to adhere to their beliefs. Before a member knows it, they have lost touch with their former selves and have become receptive to the group's ideology. The bite model. The bite model is used to understand cults and is divided into 4 categories: behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. It is a cult leader's recipe book for a dish to gain obedient and loyal followers. Behavior control is the instructions given by a recipe. Cults dictate what you can and cannot do, and when you can and cannot do specific actions. They regulate your actions and limit the things that you can do. Information control acts as the ingredients you use in a recipe. Cults feed you information according to their beliefs, similar to how a recipe excludes all other ingredients from a dish. Thought control, meanwhile, acts as the recipe's flavors, in the sense that cults shape how people think through rituals and messages. They steadily change people's thinking by adding subtle yet strong spices to change the flavor of the recipe. Finally, emotional control is similar to how a recipe is presented to a diner. Cults use your emotions to make you feel guilty about leaving the group, just like a master chef uses a beautiful presentation to make you feel guilty if you don't like the flavors. Trauma bonding. The old saying goes, misery finds company. Trauma is a powerful tool that can help bond people like superglue. Whenever people have gone through the same miserable and rough experiences in life, they tend to find company in people who have also gone through the same experiences. Cults use trauma bonding to attract and keep members of their organizations. It's like saying, hey, we know what we've been through, so we can help you. These cults also create environments where members depend on one another for their safety and sense of belonging. As the members stay in the cult longer, the leaders psychologically, emotionally, and physically abuse their members. But trauma bonding allows the members to stay inside the cults in the hopes that they can do better to gain their leader's approval and hopefully stop the abuse, as they've already grown too attached to their abuser. Keith Raniere, the founder of NXIVM, abused the female members of his cult, but because of trauma bonding, the members stayed for years and even recruited new members to please Raniere and pass the cycle of abuse on to the new members. It became a pyramid scheme where the ones who recruit new members get better benefits, prompting them to stay instead of leaving the cult. The process of indoctrination. When you
Okay, I want to go back to bite.
Right. Hey, somebody's saying you're muted. I can hear you, but apparently it's not going out.
Okay, 1, 2. Okay, duh. I come back in here. OBS does it sometimes. Like when I work with a different program, it'll mute my mic for whatever reason if I start talking instead of leaving it open.
Right.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyways, so I guess we have to go back now. Okay, so behavior control. Um, for example, if you go into a chat and you're not saying the right things or you're pushing back too hard, that behavior will get you booted from a channel. Just the mere act of asking questions, that behavior of asking questions, that curiosity that one has gotten me booted from several channels just by asking questions. The regulate information. Well, the information is only comes through. You have to also look at the information that the podcasters are giving. Do they have look at their tabs? Do they have a bunch of tabs open in their screens? Do they have is it all from the Gateway Pundit, like I've seen before on
Right.
412, where it's just nothing but Gateway Pundit? Uh,
I've been there.
so
I've
have
done
I.
that.
So have I. I've done the same thing.
And national file, and I
Oh,
had
yes, you had
my
your go-to
collective.
channels of
Yeah.
websites that you trusted, right? So those trusted websites, okay, that's regulated information. That's
Hmm.
part of the gatekeeping that we're talking about, okay? And then here's an unfortunate byproduct, okay? Because here I'm not being a complete asshole about this, but I am pointing things out. To some degree, I can't put 100% fault on some of the content creators. All right, and here's why I
Hmm.
say that is because if they're getting, even with good intent, if they're getting information that has been filtered, then their message is going to be filtered as well because they're not getting all the information, or they're going to see it through a different light. You know what I'm saying? So again, when I see someone who has a bunch of Gateway Pundit tabs open like that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, great. Or there's no other source. There's no other even a dissenting view of it or something like that. There's just one source for your information. It's like, guys, that's terrible. It's so bad.
One night I got kind of cocky, and I ended up getting humbled on a live stream. I got humbled. I was being cocky. I was going through some information, and I thought I had it lined up where I was going to debunk Associated Press,
Mm-hmm.
and because of their headline, right? And I just glanced through the bullet points at the top. I hadn't actually read into the article. And actually, what Associated Press did was they proved the point I was trying to make, because I was, but anyway, it made me go, wait, what? Hold up. It made me actually stop and review my sources, and what people around me were suggesting I steer away from.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now, I was, and so I started looking into AP's work, and they have been a great source of information for me in the work that I do, and I trust them because I've been able to verify their work. Where I run into stone walls with some of the other stuff. You just get caught in that echo chamber.
Well, yeah, it's really easy to get caught in the echo chamber. By the way, anybody on the other platforms, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your time. Um, yeah, there's. It seems to be that a lot of people get their news sources from the same location. There's no variety in it at all. There's no. Well, today we're gonna take look at see what Al Jazeera has to say about the news, and then go down and find some articles from Al Jazeera and read them and show the video clips that are in there as well. There isn't a lot of that, especially within the cults of MAGA. As a matter of fact, if there is, it's only to make fun of set news article or news reel, news clip. I see a lot of that. Drunk Pinata. That's all he does is he makes and points out shit, about mainstream media. Still stuck on that left-right paradigm. Still not moving the ball forward. Still looking down at ants, trying to figure out what's on the horizon. You see what I'm seeing, people? So it's a matter. It's perspective is really important. And the people that I'm talking to, a vast majority of them did not do the same journey that I did. We all have our own journeys, but what I'm saying is that I'm willing to accept that I was in a cult. I'm willing to acknowledge and see where my flaws are at, and I'm okay with the flaws, and I'm willing to accept that I'm human. I'll humble myself every single time, but if I'm wrong, I want people to tell me, DM me, give me links, interact with me. Don't just tell me, oh, well, you're wrong, you're messed up, or you're just you have TDS or whatever it is, or black pilled or whatever catchphrase you want to call me today. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
I've got TDS, Trump disillusionment syndrome.
There is that too, where they idolize the man, and again, they
But
come.
I, but
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
but I okay. Like another thing that helped shatter illusions was I was hearing a lot of people promoting Charles Timothy Homestead, and I did some research on him and find out he's a registered SO, and I'm like, that's when I started going, hold up, what's going on
Good
here?
grief.
And that's what started my Shattering Illusions series. And then I hit Paula White. It was Pulverized Illusions after that.
Yeah, exactly. There,
It's just
it just takes time, and people, there has to be there's almost like an internal desire to, like, you get this like a punch in the gut, or it's like you got a 1 pound of raw dough in your stomach, and you're just like something sitting heavy. When people get that, a lot of them just ignore it. But there's a few of us who actually go, you know what? There's something that tastes bad about this. I don't like X, Y, and Z, so I'm gonna take a step back. And it's difficult to do that, because at that point you have to draw yourself away. You have to put yourself back into isolation, draw away from the cults, from the group, and then analyze the group with your own behavior. And that is, especially analyzing one's own behavior, that is very difficult to do.
I put myself in 2 years of isolation.
We'll see. And that's
It,
different.
it took me that long
Mm-hmm.
to prove to myself that I could sustain my own life. If I had dirty socks, I had nobody to blame but myself.
Right.
If I was hungry, I had nobody to blame but myself.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I was also working through all this other chaos that was going in my head, continuing with my own personal therapy with things from the past, and then also trying to work through the deconstruction and untangling all the theology. But at the same time I was deconstructing the theology, I was required to also deconstruct politics, because where I grew up, the church I grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
they were 2 in 1.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
were to go up to be a preacher, a politician, a soldier, or a businessman, or any combination thereof.
Hmm. That's even growing up poor and having social and economical um, limitations can
Yeah,
put people in a state of susceptibility, and it's crazy how when you just think about it, you don't really have to analyze it. You just think about your day to day, you know,
yeah,
and see how much mental manipulation, how many times the bite comes into play, because we have thought control after irregular information. We have thought, so asking questions or wondering or different, looking for different perspectives is very frowned upon within a
yeah.
cult.
And you point out vulnerability, and you point out asking these questions. Self-doubt is what makes an individual the most vulnerable.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. And I suppose that if you're in a group, you just look to the group to get your confidence. And if the group is going a certain direction, then, well, that's what I believe too, and I'm just going to go and that I'm just going to follow suit. And
Going back to that group thing.
man, yeah, it's so bad. All right, let's get back to the video here.
Yeah.
Let's keep going here. I'm gonna do indoctrination, then the next one, and then we'll talk.
Plant and cultivate seeds in a garden, they grow into plants. It's the same thing with the process of indoctrination, which relies on the cult leader planting the seeds of ideology into the minds of their recruits. They do so by using persuasive speeches, visions of grandeur, and subtle manipulative tactics that eventually grow into plants of ideologies. Once the seeds have grown, followers start to adopt the cult's ideas as their own, without even realizing how much their beliefs have changed. But the indoctrination doesn't stop there, because as gardeners, cult leaders need to weed out unwanted plants. Followers must abandon their ideologies and adhere only to the group's beliefs. Their personal opinions are regarded as weeds that must be rooted out to ensure that the cult has an ideal garden of faithful followers. A member without any opposing beliefs is easier to manipulate for abusive cult leaders. One good example of this is Joseph DeMambro, the leader of the Solar Temple cult. He utilized the process of indoctrination by enforcing his authority onto his members and subjecting them to psychological manipulations until they were loyal enough to commit suicide and murders. Exploitation of vulnerabilities. Everyone has a weakness or a vulnerability that people can exploit. A vulnerable person is like a house with a weaker lock or a room with a busted door hinge. A careful and experienced burglar should be able to find such vulnerabilities, enter the house, and do whatever he wants. That's what happens when a cult leader exploits a person's weaknesses. Weaknesses can be anything, from feelings of loneliness and heartbreak or insecurities. But most people lock their vulnerabilities inside closed doors. Cult leaders, however, are skilled enough to break these locks open and use them to their advantage to gain the trust of their followers. When a cult leader is inside, they can rearrange the person's beliefs and ideas, just like a burglar can rearrange the furniture in a house he broke into. Before the person realizes it, the cult has already taken advantage of their vulnerabilities to force their ideals onto them. Warren Jeffs, leader of the Fundamental Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, claimed divine authority and manipulated the religious beliefs of his followers, ultimately using their vulnerabilities against them to control and coerce them. Us versus them mentality. Sun Myung Moon, the founder of the Unification Church, taught his followers that they were the chosen ones, destined to unite the world, essentially making them think that it was them against everyone else. The us versus them mentality is like a dividing wall that keeps two opposing ideologies on each side. Those on one end are the us. Meanwhile, everyone who isn't on that side is the them, or the others. What cult leaders do is that they try to distinguish their cults as groups that are in opposition to those who aren't members of their order, while making them feel unique and superior compared to outsiders. Because of this mindset, members of a cult believe that they know better than anyone who isn't part of their group, and are in a better position in terms of their beliefs and ideologies. The same mindset also allows them to stick together, believing that the only ones who can understand them are their fellow cult members. This mentality can be strong enough for members to actually cut ties with family and friends who don't belong to their cults. They see themselves as the ones who are correct and are willing to alienate or oppose anyone who doesn't share the same beliefs. The worst part is that they're only willing to accept information or opinions from the inside instead of the outside. Identity.
Okay, so I think we just covered that one in our last little discussion there.
Pretty much. I thought it was rather interesting that they brought up Warren Jeffs.
Right.
If you really want to know more about Warren Jeffs and the aftermath of his works, on YouTube, there's a channel called Growing Up in Polygamy.
Okay.
And the guy that runs that channel is actually one of Warren's kids.
Oh, wow.
Warren had 165 plus kids. He had like 83 wives, 85 wives.
Oh my gosh. That's too much.
And then Sun Yun Moon. I have files for days on him, but that brings me back to Paula White and her interaction over there in South Korea, praising Mother Moon as the one true daughter of God.
Yeah, I saw that video and I'm just like, oh, this is Trump's spiritual advisor. This is Trump's spiritual advisor, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, but that was just absolutely, yeah. But anyways, the we just talked about the shoot, what was it we just talked about? I'm losing track here. The us versus them. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
The us versus them. That's that's a big one right there. That's a huge one in the MAGA cult right there. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, and for me, that us versus them thing when I was growing up plays back into something else that they mentioned earlier about planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for us, we were driven to evangelize, you know, the little chick tracts.
Mm-hmm.
We were passing those out and you know, giving our testimony and trying to convert people. And if you didn't get a conversion, well, at least you planted a seed. and you would hope that
Yeah,
it would take root.
yeah, I remember
So
that.
that, yeah, yeah. So there's that. I heard planting seeds, and I'm like, but then again, there's also, plant the seed in my ministry, and God will bless you.
Hmm. Yeah, I've,
Yeah,
I've heard the same thing in the Baptist church when I was growing up and stuff. So, it's pretty universal. I don't say pretty universal, but I mean I think in most churches we'll probably talk about the planting of the seeds and especially when it comes to witnessing to someone, you know.
right.
But here, um, there's I don't know if some people are planting political seeds. I'm not quite sure if that's a thing. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Well,
Uh,
ideological,
Well, yeah,
ideological.
I mean, I guess it did actually work because a lot of we for this last election, quite a few Democrats didn't vote for Democrats; they voted for Trump. But
Yeah, it was.
also 30 million Christians didn't vote. Roughly, roughly 30 million Christians didn't vote because they didn't want to vote for the lesser two evils. There's that catchphrase too. It's like, well, at least he's not Kamala. Is that better, really? I mean, it's that's a us versus them sort of mentality. The and that's even been a phrase I think in Q, us versus them. So it's like, guys, there's so many points where I'm not, I don't even have notes in, I mean, presentation format at all on this, guys. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Okay, I mean, this is very basic introduction stuff. Just having a conversation about this and showing you guys a video. Imagine if if Gi and I just did a huge presentation. We would have to break up one presentation into 3 or 4 parts because it
Oh
would be
yeah,
so far detailed and stuff. Okay, I'm trying to do this to get the people in the back row for them to listen as well. Something easy
right,
for people to digest. And again, planting the seeds of letting of the truth. This is the actual truth, people. This is MAGA is a cult. The other side of the political spectrum is a cult. The cults are everywhere. The mindset, the brainwashing is everywhere, and it's in order for us to move collectively together, we have to be able to see that. Everyone has to be able to see it, or at least a vast majority of the people need to be able to see how the brainwashing occurs, the serious what I'm doing, what it is, how do we, the different aspects of it, how do we recognize it, and then how do we get out of it.
right.
So again, there is a method to my madness, people. It's just not enough people are willing to sit and listen to my madness,
Well,
unfortunately.
one of the things that I want to bring up here is that through these various techniques, you pull some different threads. You've got that charismatic leader that pulls you in, and you got the community that love bombs you. It makes you feel really welcome. So that sets you up for the entry, and then you have that emotional control where you become emotionally invested in the group, and of course, there's that head figure that gets elevated,
Hmm.
and you fall into this devotee love. You become so dedicated, so devoted that you have this devotee bond, this devotee love bond with the group and or the leader, more specifically the leader generally. And then something happens and you ask the wrong question. Now you get pushback from the leader.
Hmm.
That's generally referred to as love devotee corruption. It now puts you
Gotcha.
in it puts you into a position where the leader can paint you black. You can be shunned or ostracized, or but you make your amends, and now you're painted white again, and now you're back in good graces.
Oh, sort of like how Massey has voted against certain bills, and Trump has specifically stated he's going to primary Massey
Yeah,
because he's not falling in line. And that's the other thing too, people, is if you, especially with the cult of MAGA, if you don't fall in line, you are going to be strung up and ostracized like no other. I'm a prime example of it. I am.
but before I ever even understood what the concept was, just from watching interaction of people's relationships,
Hmm.
I could recognize that, like, this guy, he was like all lovey with this girl, and then something would happen. He'd be verbally or emotionally abusive towards her, and then call her back. And it was like, good puppy, bad puppy kind of thing.
Yep, I was thinking the
You
same
know,
thing.
oh, I'm playing with the puppy. Oh, you nipped me, bad puppy, and beat the puppy with the rolled up newspaper, and the puppy runs away, and you don't have that. You don't have a stable emotional regulation,
Hmm.
and that develops a distrust.
Right, and unfortunately, when I was in the cult, I thought that those people who were asking questions, I thought they were stupid. Because that's the way that the group was. That's why the manipulation had occurred. The brainwashing is that we were a group of people because you were a what? You became a digital soldier.
Yeah,
Where we go
keyboard
one,
warrior,
we go all, and we're here to take down the deep state together, right? Got that
keyboard
whole
warrior. Yeah, yeah.
keyboard war exactly to get that whole mentality and stuff going, and so uh, and it just loads people up with a bunch of hope, and in reality is that hope is the enemy of action. So if you're doing a whole bunch of, I'm not saying you can't have hope, but I'm saying being realistic about your hope. Be realistic about what's in front of you, people. And that way
Right.
we don't set expectations so high for ourselves or for the group that we're with or for anybody else that we end up isolating ourselves or isolating other people and again creating that divide. The visual aids that we're putting up there I think is pretty good. It's a pretty good video, to be honest. I think we're just it's just it's taking a time to break it down a little bit. So um, yeah, let's get back into it here. Let's get back into it. Oops, wrong one. Wrong one. Darn it. There it is. Yeah. Okay, we're good here.
Fusion. A bucket of water has a unique identity from the ocean, but once you pour the entire bucket into the ocean, it ceases to be unique because it loses its distinctiveness when it merges with a bigger body of water. Cults work in the same way by gradually fusing the identities of their members with the bigger identity of the entire group, forcing them to lose their individualities. Shoko Asahara of Aum Shinriko used the same tactic by making his followers believe they were all part of the same elite group, destined to survive a global apocalyptic event. Members of that group lost their individuality and were willing enough to commit acts of terror to bring about Shoko's vision. People in cults experience this when they adopt the group's values and goals as their own, becoming fanatics who take on the cult's identity. Cult leaders are to blame for this because they manipulate their members by coercing or feeding them information gradually and subtly that convinces their followers that there is only one universal truth. When members fuse their identities with the entire cult, they can no longer differentiate between right and wrong because their group's ideals dictate their discernment. This can force members to commit illegal acts, all for the sake of the cult. Deception. Deception is arguably the most common denominator in all cults, because cult leaders need to conceal the truth from their followers to force them into blind submission. For example, Keith Raniere deceived women into thinking that Nexium was a support group, but was instead an avenue for him to commit abuse. It's similar to how a magician hides the truth from the audience using curtains. Audiences are amazed at the seemingly supernatural feats of a magician, but are blind to the fact that they are being tricked from behind the curtain. In the same way, cults lure followers with grand promises, such as eternal salvation and enlightenment, but hide the fact that they have ulterior motives that could take the form of abuses or personal enrichment at the expense of the followers. The problem is that cult leaders are so skilled at hiding the truth that their followers fall for their tricks for years or even decades. This can create an illusion that could make it harder for cult followers to distinguish reality from a false image created by their leaders. The deception tactics can be subtle, but can also have powerful and lasting effects that can trick followers into blind submission.
All right, so that only took an hour and 15 minutes. No big deal, right? That's fine. It's only a 14-minute video, folks. I mean, come on.
Right, right.
It's not like we want to be thorough about the conversation or any of that kind of stuff,
Exactly.
It's only
Right.
so, like you were saying, deception. Deception is a big one, and I even think that what's the phrase called? True fallacies. I think true fallacies are also part of deception because they give people a little bit of truth, but then it's not really the whole truth. It's kind of like phase 1 of the Epstein files.
Right.
It's that.
Or Q crumbs.
Yeah.
The cube rods,
They
or
mentioned the
just
drip, drip, drip of
yes,
information.
exactly, the drip, drip, drip of information, like in Scientology. As you're working your way up through those operating thetan, those OT levels,
Yes.
you don't find out about Xenu until you get to OT3.
And then to find
You,
out
you,
more, you need to spend more money on these books in order
right,
to get to the
right.
higher level.
And if you work really hard and spend a whole lot of money, you can get up there to the top with Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, David Miscavige, Tom Cruise. He's an OT8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Will Smith is in the Scientology as well.
yeah.
Um,
Will and
w-
Jada
let's see.
Pinkett. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they're both into it. Doesn't Pam Bondi have ties to the Church of Scientology?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So do DeSantis and Trump.
really, DeSantis.
Hundreds of millions of dollars have been dumped in their coffers. Look up Trish Dugan.
Trish Dugan.
Trish Dugan in Florida. Two G's.
Dugan. Okay, I'll have to look her up.
You will be surprised by how much money she's dumped into DeSantis coffers, and Trump's coffers. Just that one woman. It's insane.
Interesting. Well, at that point, I've got to see. Well, who is it? A pissing contest? Of who's giving Trump more now? Or
No, no, no,
have the
no.
Adelsons given more Trump more? Or
Actually, the reason Scientologists tend to vote Republican is because Scientology is dead set against psychological health for anybody. They're against psychology. Big psych, bad
well,
news.
obviously because
So that means if we don't have health care for all, then we won't have psychology for all. And then Scientology can sweep in and provide their audits with their e-machines and fix everybody from all their thetans.
yeah,
Or you can go to Greg Locke and get all the
yeah,
demons delivered from you. Either
yeah,
way,
yeah. Either
it's a
way,
trip.
there is that. It's funny how people, and especially in Scientology, how they think that it the spirits of aliens are the ones that are infesting people and causing bad thoughts and energy and stuff like that. It could be your environment. It couldn't be how you were raised. It could be your current state of affair. It couldn't be maybe
Right?
you're just an undiagnosed person with depression. Who knows? And you just need a small puff off a joint every once in a while to keep you mellow out, keep you happy.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know, but it is this part two here. I think has been pretty eye opening because we've been able to show very simple examples of how each of those 14 points there, how politically it's right there in line with the MAGA community. And again, I don't hate the MAGA community. I
No,
don't hate the people within it. I think they're most of them are the ones that I've interacted with. The most of them are genuinely good people, but they are brainwashed. They have cognitive dissonance, and they are frightened and are addicts to what's going on. They're when they say that they are woke, supposedly awoken to you took the red pill. Well, you only take one type of red pill. I think Nick Winfrey said this. You can only take this red pill. You can't take the whole bottle, or you can't take that one that you see at the bottom of the red pill. At the bottom of the red pill, you have to take this one that I give you, and that's the only one you're allowed to take. And I'm like, it's a whole set of information of go to this level and no further. Like you're not allowed to go any further. And that's what I've experienced. Hey Blaze Autumn, welcome in. I appreciate you being here. That's what I've experienced on Pilled with MAGA. At least again, it's a microcosm of the larger scale here. But at one point, the community was much larger, and slowly but surely, people have been falling off of that community. And it's not a. I think the people falling off is more of that's an organic thing. They were
yeah,
already non-susceptible or had a leg up on the people who were maybe they weren't as mentally weak, or they weren't as
Or
um,
maybe they hit their exit point way sooner.
yeah, they had the precipice
Like
of
like
whatever.
like for me, when I ended up putting both feet on the brakes and jumping off the MAGA train, was when Trump initially came out with that solution for homelessness video. What was that? 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
I don't remember that. What did he?
He was going to get him off the streets and put him in camps in national forests that were supervised by medical doctors, so we could get them the mental health care they need. And I'm like, hold up, I've seen this script.
Yeah, put people into the woods, into camps. Hmm.
Built camps in national forest land.
Like what the? That's so
That,
insane. That's
you're
silly.
right.
That's
I'm
just
like,
that's just
I'm
insane.
out. That was my breaking point. That was when I still had 1 foot on the train.
Hmm.
That's all I needed to get me the rest of the way out the door. That was my breaking point. But here we are. Here we
That's
are.
true. That's true.
Here we are. It's just like it's wild. Now, before we head out, I do have a video that I'd like to present. It's just under 16 minutes long.
Sure.
And if we can just let the whole thing play, and then we can talk about it on the other side, because it's continuous thought, but it's circular logic used to deceive in cults, multi-level marketing, and conspiracy theories.
Oh, that would fit. That'd be segues perfectly into what we're talking about.
Yes, I figured this would be the perfect piece to bring in. I had a
Hmm.
couple of others, but we've already covered them, and so I don't need to. But this is what I want to offer.
Yeah. Do you want to screen share, or
So
do you want to
screen
drop the
share,
link?
yeah, no, I'll definitely screen share.
Okay. Excellent. Looks like looks good on my side.
So there is a type of logic that cults, MLMs, and conspiracy theorists all use, and it's circular logic, which is a deceptive web of reasoning. I've been listening to The Dream, which is an investigative podcast exploring MLMs, wellness, pyramid schemes, gurus, and life coaches. Highly recommend this podcast. It's really well done. They have 3 seasons out that you can binge. Cults, MLMs, and conspiracy theories. Why these 3 things? Why am I interested or lumping those 3 together? Because I was a member of a cult that had an MLM business model and used conspiracy theories as a fundamental aspect of its rhetoric, I'm seeing this overlap. And one of the key aspects of this that allows all of this to work is circular reasoning. And it struck me listening to one of the episodes of this other podcast where they were giving an example of how many members of MLMs, multi level marketing schemes, let's say a beauty or skincare makeup company, they oftentimes have women and they do these videos where they use this argument that they're not a pyramid scheme because pyramid schemes are illegal. And because they're able to operate, they must not be illegal, which means that they're not a pyramid scheme. And that's an example of circular reasoning, circular logic. Similarly, in the cult Nexium, they said that they were not an MLM because MLMs are unethical and they're all about ethics. Therefore, they're not an MLM. Let me give you another example from my cult, which was, well, 2 examples. One was, we're not a cult. Here's evidence of why we're not a cult. Read this article written by one of our members that says that proves that we're not a cult. Problem is, an article written by a cult member saying that you're not a cult does not prove that you're not a cult, but that's circular logic. Another example that was just really inferred throughout my experience there, if not outright stated, was that the leader of this cult was highly aware and conscious. So, therefore, we must trust and believe everything that he says because he is so aware and so conscious. How do we know that he is so aware and so conscious? Because he tells us that he is. He claims to be, but it's like, who says who? Oh, you do. Well, that doesn't make it true. In a world where persuasive language and compelling arguments reign supreme, and charismatic authorities like this are creating cults left, right, and center, there's something like 10,000 cults in the US alone. Subtle yet potent force of circular logic often goes unnoticed. This logical fallacy, which appears in various guises from multi-level marketing to cults to conspiracy theories, it creates a self-sustaining loop of reasoning that escapes conventional detection. So this episode, we're going to explore how circular logic forms the backbone of these deceptive practices and giving some real-world examples that unveil its mechanics. And like all of my episodes, my intention here is to provide you with information and education about how these tactics work so that you can be better informed, think critically, and thus these groups will not be able to sustain themselves. Without people literally buying into them, they cannot exist. Also, MLM schemes and cults often target vulnerable populations or individuals, and this strategy is a key part to their business model. Targeting vulnerable individuals, the reasons why they do this are rooted both in the structure of MLMs and in the psychological tactics that they employ. Perhaps I'll do a whole another episode about how and why they target vulnerable populations. But for now, let me go into this deceptive practice of circular logic, and then we'll unpack how it works. So, at its core, circular logic is a logical fallacy where the conclusion of an argument is assumed within its premises. This type of reasoning is self-referential and lacks external verification, making it fundamentally flawed. For instance, religious texts may be deemed infallible because they declare their own infallibility. In MLMs and pyramid schemes, it's just rife with circular reasoning. So the idea that their business model cannot be a pyramid scheme because pyramid schemes are illegal and the operation is ongoing is flawed because it conflates legality with structure and ignores the fact that illegal operations can exist until identified and shut down. Moreover, it uses the MLM's operational status as proof of its legality, bypassing the need for actual evidence that differentiates it from a pyramid scheme. And this podcast, The Dream, has an entire season that goes through the logistics and the corruption behind why certain MLMs have not yet been classified as pyramid schemes. But the point is, it doesn't make them any more legitimate of a business model or any better of an idea to get into. And they're extremely problematic for a number of reasons. I did another episode about MLMs, their lack of transparency, the actual real numbers and statistics behind the success rates. It's disgusting. Not all MLMs are selling products. The coaching industry, where you are essentially put into this pyramid that has no checks and balances, that the piece of paper that you get at the end of this program is based on nothing, and where you essentially, because many coaches, it's so oversaturated and many coaches, their businesses are not doing well, they end up coaching other coaches to become coaches. It's just another version of an MLM. Closed systems in pyramid schemes like self-referential recruitment and internal validation further entrench this circular logic. So success stories within the scheme, for example, are highlighted as evidence of legitimacy, yet these stories are part of the system and do not represent independent verification. You are being incentivized to provide these stories of success when you are in an MLM or in a cult to further prove your dedication, how much of a success you are, and because you're also selling stuff, the same stuff, to make people want to come to you, you will tell these stories and you'll highlight whatever success you've had in your life. And you will always credit the MLM or the cult or the leader or the guru or the whoever the authority or the governing body is of this work. And you'll give credit to them as part of this, how this whole closed system works. And other people will be hearing you. You will be recruiting them into this closed system with your success stories, but you are getting incentivized some way. I guarantee you they're all being incentivized in some way. And in my cult, this is how they always sold people into their programs. They get people who have been there already to tell the stories of success and credit that class or that leader or that facilitator or that coach for any success that they've had. Problem is that one example does not represent the majority of people's experience. And they don't often, or if ever, follow up with that person 5, 10, 50, 20 years later and find out, how are they doing now? There have been so many people that in my cult alone told stories, wrote books about their journey in wellness who are now dead because they actually were not well. There was a guy who wrote this book, Curing the Incurable. He died of the incurable disease. He was not cured of the incurable. It's really gross. Also, so many wellness programs, diet stuff. It's like, how are the people doing years later? In my family, they exploited our family, my husband's origin story, trauma that we've experienced, and they have you tell these stories with this beautiful bow wrapped around it, crediting the tools, crediting the leader, so that other people hear that, they get inspired by you, and they're exploiting you to sell their crap. And I'll guarantee you they never go back and follow up and say, hey, that trauma that you supposedly got through with our amazing tools, are you cured of that? Are you healed of that? No, we were being traumatized using spiritual bypass and completely being distracted and our critical thinking being shut off and a number of other deceptive techniques. We felt better. But nothing was being healed. Get all fired up and they get on a tangent. Okay, cults and charismatic authorities are a hotbed of circular logic. So they often use this type of logic to establish and maintain control. A cult leader may proclaim their infallibility as proof of their authority, creating a self-reinforcing loop that validates their leadership without external evidence. There's no one on the outside of this cult that is pointing at them and saying, yes, you are this amazing leader. Yes, you are so uber aware or ethical or whatever it is they're claiming. It's always people within this closed system, and they're being incentivized to do that. Behind the scenes is a whole different story. The amount of backstabbing, competition, people saying that they're and looking like they're best friends who are stabbing each other in the back behind the scenes. It's disgusting. Cults may declare they're not cults using articles or statements from within their own ranks as proof, which is inherently a circular argument. Another common fallacy inside these groups is the belief in the leader's awareness, consciousness, high status of whatever, spirituality. This is accepted without question because, again, we don't allow dissent. You can see my episode on dissent. It's not allowed inside a cult or these coercive groups to question the leader. You can't question the leader. And conspiracy theories is an interesting one because this is circular logic at play. Like the lack of evidence for a conspiracy is often cited as proof of its very existence and the effectiveness of its cover-up, which is brilliant, don't you think? Official denials are seen as confirmation of the conspiracy, creating a self-validating cycle that is resistant to logical analysis. I was a great example of this because I left the cult, blew the whistle, and then my life fell apart. Well, guess what? Your life does fall apart when you leave a cult because your whole life was constructed on a lie and built as a house of cards. And so when it falls apart, yeah, you're gonna have financial issues, social issues. Your entire structure of friends and family is gone. The cult has done its very best to isolate you from anyone that you used to associate with. Your actual family relationships are often torn apart inside. And then, of course, leaving a cult is extremely stressful. It's a miracle that any relationship survive that amount of stress. And so when you look at someone who has left a cult and you're like, oh, their life fell apart, the guru is going to take credit for that. In my case, have a, insert maniacal evil laughter, hit, hit, hit. And because they claim this mystical power and magical powers to voodoo people, they'll be like, look at her, well, look at her life, this is evidence that we are this great thing because when she left, she had her whole life fall apart. Watch this space. So, official denials of conspiracy theories are often seen as confirmation of the conspiracy, creating a self validating cycle that is resistant to logical analysis. This makes conspiracy theories particularly appealing as they provide simple explanations for complex events and foster a sense of superiority among believers. This was massively huge in my group. There were always taking something complex. At the moment, it's the war going on, and they're giving simple explanations for the cause of it, as well as what they recommend. I'm embarrassed to even say because it's just so stupid. What they say is to be done about it is like this super simple thing. It's like, oh, just do this. Really? If that worked, why hasn't the war ended and everyone's in peace and harmony now? But they will have some other explanation for that. And it always comes back to, the leader and the doctrine are infallible. The members, if it doesn't work for you, it's your fault. In conclusion, breaking the cycle, breaking the circular logic, recognizing and understanding circular logic is crucial in navigating the complex landscape of coercive control, large group awareness trainings, MLMs, cults, conspiracy theories, charismatic authorities who seem so confident and self assured and certain about what they are saying. By identifying this flawed reasoning, individuals like yourself can equip themselves with the tools to critically evaluate and question these systems, breaking free of the deceptive web of circular logic. As we continue to encounter various forms of persuasive reasoning in everyday life, cultivating an awareness of circular logic becomes essential in discerning truth from manipulation. And make no mistake, this form of logic is nothing but a form of manipulation. There's nothing true about it. And when you end up right back where you started, you can be sure you're being played, that this leader or authority is using circular logic to deceive you, hide the truth, and lead you actually away from your critical thinking and questioning, and to form the conclusion that they want you to have.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good, 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 good. I liked it. I liked it.
I thought you would.
Expand a little bit on the MLM.
Multi-level marketing systems work a lot like a pyramid scheme does,
Okay.
where the idea is you buy in this membership to this club, and because you're part of this club, you have this array of products that you can't get anywhere else, and we've got these special prices, and if you invest a little bit more, then you can get the sales packet, and then you can start making money off of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. MLMs don't work like that. It's only like the top 2%, 1.5% that actually make any money off of it. And with Amway, that actually goes back. Okay, Betsy DeVos.
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, DeVos is her married name. Her dad is the son of the founder of Amway. when the Amway founder stepped down,
Hmm.
her dad became the CEO of Amway because it stayed in the family. And then Betsy married and went off and did her thing. Well, guess who else is part of the Amway family?
I don't know.
Do you know the name Eric Prince?
Get the flip out of here. Eric Prince,
Eric,
Blackwater,
yes,
is connected to.
Amway.
Oh my gosh, the net goes wide. Holy crap! Wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't get into that. That's for sure. I did. Well, I got into it a little bit, but I didn't get too far. So,
Well, my parents bought it. Were buying into it because we did Mother Earth News, we did the organic gardening, so they had the liquid organic concentrate LOC laundry soap,
hmm.
and they also did the vitamins. So every morning before I went off to school, I had to chew my alfalfa tablets and my vitamin C tablet,
Oh, oh man.
and I loved the
Oh,
flavor of the alfalfa tablets. I mean, we there was down there in Southwest Missouri, alfalfa was a common harvest, common
hmm.
crop. So, and when it comes time for the alfalfa harvest, it reminded me of breakfast.
Memories.
It's no wonder I grew up to be a pothead, right?
Oh my goodness, right?
Hey, that tastes like childhood.
Everett's asking what's the connection between Amway and what Blackwater?
And Blackwater.
Is Eric
Eric Prince is married into the Amway family, and that's how he got the money to start Blackwater.
back in the day?
Yep.
So,
In
we're-
fact, if you go and look up the Al Jazeera interview with Eric Prince, they actually call him out on when Trump was not wanting to withdraw from the Afghan war, but was wanting to privatize it and put it in the hands of Blackwater. Essentially, the idea was Blackwater would be equivalent to Russia's Wagner.
sure. Let's have a private militarized mercenary corporation. Just running freaking buckshot on everybody, just like they
Right?
did, just like what happened in the first part of Iraqi 2.0.
Yeah.
You had Blackwater all over the place, and they were causing mass amounts of problems.
And
So
Halliburton.
yeah, Halliburton, and that goes back to Bush, and I mean, the connections are kind of astounding, to be honest. But yeah, that was a good video. I liked it, and the multi-level manipulation also, with the Amway, um, even within certain churches, like prophets, yeah, prophets. You know what I'm saying? So those preachers who are, like Paula White, give me X amount of dollars and you will have your own personal guardian angel, or whatever it might be. Um, you're getting your everything we just talked about tonight applies to that market manipulation, mental manipulation, um, vulnerability on people, uh, the desire to fit in, um, limited information, the whole all bite in itself. So
Right.
yeah, so go
Well,
ahead.
and that self doubt making one vulnerable. If a person isn't doesn't have the self confidence
Mm-hmm.
or a well enough rounded education, then when they're presented with challenge information that challenges their status quo with enough apparent evidence, then they can be persuaded. And that's where I think American education falls short in not teaching critical thinking.
Right. Our current educational system, and even within the political scheme, there's not a it's not how to think, it's what to think. Let's indoctrinate you and brainwash you in what to think, not how to think critically. If you I've seen people go up to the MAGA crowds outside of the rallies and ask them very basic questions, and they're very vanilla, Fox News, Newsmax, that sort of answer to certain questions where it's they're going to repeat the talking points. Same way with people on the other side too who are at protests and they don't know why they're there. They're just protesting the protest, right? No difference. Both sides has a vast majority of people within the two extremes are not educated. They are typically people who are massively disenfranchised, especially on the left. They're usually massively disenfranchised because of the way they look and how they act and how they present themselves in public. Then you have the other side, which is working 50 hours a week and doesn't have the time to deep dive into information and truly explore what the political party means or what a particular idea is, because they're too busy putting food on the table, paying the mortgage, paying the car payment, trying to get chores done around the house. So there's a lot of distractions, and I think those are done on purpose because it doesn't allow this conversation to flourish and to have we should have this conversation. Typically, we should have 300 people watching the show,
Right.
but we have less than 20
Right.
total on also all platforms, and there's a reason why that these conversations aren't had unless people like Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson or even Candace Owen or someone like that is having the conversation. Then it's going to get light because, oh, well, that's a trusted source. That person, like this conversation we're having now will never happen within the MAGA community. Will never,
I
never, never happen.
I want to weigh in on Everett Holmes' comment.
Mm-hmm.
Protesters usually paid to protest. That may happen some at the organizational level, but from my own personal experience in the last year, the protesters are volunteers.
Yeah,
It,
that's what I've gathered too. Is that
I've,
again,
I've
again
I've been I've been out there with them,
Yeah, and I don't doubt that at all.
you know,
Especially with
and
being in St. Louis, there's a large group of people who are going to protest no matter what. And
yeah,
so if you
yeah,
go and talk to them, you're going to find out that some of them, most of them are there on their own accord, and some of them are paid. But the ones that are being paid are probably not going to tell you anyways.
right.
That's kind of one of those true
It,
fallacies that we've been told to manipulate you into a certain way of thinking
well,
about these protesters, is that most of the protesters are paid opposition, are paid to be there because it's because of a few instances that we've had, that we have
very
evidence of, that now it's a blanketed term within the MAGA community to think that anybody who's at a
right,
protest who's against Trump is their paid opposition.
right.
That's
Kind of like how the term crisis actor kind of got
same
blown out of
same principle.
yeah,
Yeah, same exact
you know.
principle.
But yeah, I actually had that very same conversation with my dad. We my dad and I haven't spoken in over a week. Um, sometimes you just have to go no contact. When it's causing too much frustration on both sides, it's better just to break off communication, and that can
Yeah,
be painful. I mean, I still
yeah,
respect and love my dad. I just don't have the respect for him that I used to have.
and uh, I would say careful who you consider to be a hero, sort of thing. But
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, and I don't want to say that your dad's not your hero or whatever. But what I'm saying is that even within the political scheme, you have these people that are looked up to, and that they are, like Alex Jones, a personality like Alex Jones. Sure, brought a lot of crazy ideas, a lot of backed up information, showed a lot of stuff, some truth, but went to a point of no further. Went to a point of, I'm going to take you up to this point, but I'm not going to go any further. No further. I mean, even all of the pundits that are out there that are in the alternative mainstream media, they're all aware of this too. Whether they're writing the script that they're reading to the show that you're
Yeah.
seeing, or they are actively manipulating the script. received a script and then they're putting in their own thoughts to it.
Well,
It
the ideological cocktail that my dad drank was Rush Limbaugh and Art Bell.
oh yeah. I've got one of Rush's Limbaugh's Betty Ross's hat that has the signature on it, the embroidered signature of his. And I saw that for $2 at an estate sale. I'm like, I got to pick that up. It's gonna be worth something in the future. Um, but yeah, it's even even within the simple act of buying a T-shirt or buying a hat, I still have my MAGA hat from 2020.
I
I don't know
never,
why.
I never bought a MAGA hat. I wanted to, but I never could. I could never justify it because I never really could afford it.
See, and that's the thing too is that we could and we got the T-shirts, I got the hat, we made signs. I mean, you want to talk about?
Well,
I mean,
I had a couple of Eric Greitens T-shirts because I worked on his campaign
oh,
there out
okay.
of Columbia.
Oh, that's all right.
And yeah, Everett, yeah, there are companies around the world, not just in America and Europe, that provide crisis actors. It's like a day labor thing, but that's for like training for like car crash scenarios or Trump post catastrophic event type things for triage training. Um, there may sometimes that overlap into acting. I mean, acting is just like for movies or whatever.
Hmm.
But when it comes to like crisis actors is pulling off psyops, I'm I'm not really convinced. I think Sandy Hook happened.
I I mean, I think there can be an argument made for that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
And I think that would be a really good discussion in the future. Are psyops real, or how do we know what a psyop is? Maybe that's what I'll do after this. Like, what is a cult? Maybe I'll go through the same process and analyze like what is a psyop and
that would be fun.
how do we recognize what a psyop is, and can we give examples of that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Something of that to dive into that, I think would be really cool, to be honest. So,
yeah, that would.
um, but yeah, false flags. Yeah, why are they false flags? Who puts them on? And Everett, if you have any information on that, please DM it to me, because that's definitely going to go into a presentation, a future presentation, because it has to. That's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
relevant. It's relevant information when talking about psyops. Most of us have a general consensus that yes, psyops. There is someone paying for who put a pallet of bricks on the side of the road in downtown. Those are examples. Like who rented the
right.
U-Haul truck and then 20 Antifa people jumped out. Are they all paid operate? Are they? We
Or a
could even
Penske truck with
right.
2020 Patriot Front or
Yeah,
ICE
yeah, and a
guys
bunch
hopping out of
all
it.
signs and they got pallets and signs and all kinds of stuff ready to go. Obviously, there is money behind it. Now,
Yeah,
who's funding those operations? That's where I question, because it could be as simple as our own government is funding these operations,
right,
or it
right.
could be George Soros and his NGOs and stuff. So that's going to have to be a show by
That,
itself, probably
yeah,
a couple show episodes, maybe 3 episodes to totally fully explore that area as well. Um,
I
but yeah,
I would
it's
I,
ever it's
I
a
would
good it's a
I'd
good
love to work with you on that.
yeah, me
At
too.
least on one episode.
So but yeah, but
Ring around the Rosie.
the Ring on the Roses, Sandy Hook, definitely happened.
Yeah.
I there's with the Sandy Hook, there's the whole advent that it was thrown, that the Alex Jones Sandy Hook case was there just to stifle people's First Amendment. Have such a huge, because have such a huge fine. They had to pay $1.2 billion or whatever it is, and make it so big that no one wants to talk about these types of conspiracy theories. That's also an option that needs to be explored as well, because there's a lawyer named Wayne Young who's looking into this right now, and it accidentally fell into a guy who I've had on my show a few times. His name is Victor Hugo Vaca the second, and it organically fell into his lap that Jim Fetzer, who's over on Revolution Radio, was actually helping cover up the Sandy Hook thing.
Mm.
So we'll again, that's we'll have to dive into that. I'll have to do some more research and get some information from Victor. But there's it's a huge. I mean, it's a big thing. He emailed me. He emailed people like Stu Peters, the health ranger, even Alex Jones. He emailed Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Win Young and Calendar John Calendar, I think his name is. He's all on Vax Choice here on Pilled quite often. I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Calendar. Um, and I and Salty and a couple other people in a litany list of other were included into an email, and myself and a few other people are actually brought up, understood what was going on and the ramifications of the case being thrown, and then we wanted to go online and talk about it. So, so I'm being included in chain emails and group emails with the people like the likes of Stu Peters, with Todd Calendar is his name, Todd Calendar, with the health ranger, I can't remember his name, is Mike something. These other big time personalities that are being thrown around. Not a lot of them are even looking at this information, but the ones of us who understand it and understand the ramifications of it, we're putting it out there. We have no problem doing it out there. But the whole thing is like, I never thought in my life that I would be included in that I have access to these people's personal emails. And I'm included into these. I mean, I've shown this kind of stuff too. I've shown the email chain that I was put in with Victor Hugo, and so when I say that I do have a completely different perspective on certain things, or I am privy to certain information that others may not be privy to. It's not going to be behind a paywall. I'll get that
Right.
information and I'll share it with you guys as soon as I have it. As soon as I can put it into a format for you to understand, I will do so. It's not oh well, come to my website and behind a $2.99 subscription for a month, you can listen to the rest of the story. No, I'm not Paul Harvey. You're not waiting half the day for the rest of the story. Okay, you're gonna get it from me free of charge. The way I look at it, and that's the way it should be. All information should be free. So
I agree, and I'm going to be doing the same thing with a project that I'm digging into, and I'm going to be reaching out to a few people myself.
excellent,
I'll be reaching back out to John Collins over at Leaving the Message,
nice.
the William Branham Research Center,
Mm-hmm. Yep, I know that is.
because I'd stumbled across something that he didn't know about, and it's just like blown my case wide open. I'm going to be leaning into a lot of Whitney Webb's work because
I have that on my
it
docket as
it
well.
it reinforces a bunch of the stuff that I already knew anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also be working with Laura over at Magical Mystery Church because she's picked up a couple of details that fall right in with what I'm getting ready to put together. Because I stumbled on one detail that just absolutely zipped everything together for me. Robert Maxwell
Mm-hmm.
was one of the financiers of Operation Condor.
Yeah, I knew that.
That means that when he was in Chile checking on the manufacturing operations, he was at Colonia Dignidad, which means
Wait a minute.
he
Hold on. No. 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 Fucking A. No. And just like that, people, when the powers that be don't want you talking, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna cut you off right away. And cut you off right away. So I do appreciate you and Salty giving the information instead of sitting on the info like a golden egg. Yeah, there's no point in doing that. If you can come back in, GI, please do, because we need to. You need to finish your thought there, because we were rudely interrupted by Jitsi, who said, "I don't want you guys to talk anymore," and that's not good. That's the second time this has happened to me with GI. I think the second time. Yeah. Yeah. What's wrong is what happened is Jitsi booted him from the channel altogether. So I think the next time I'm gonna do I won't be using OBS slash Jitsi for my next stream. I think I'll be using the Restream that I'm continuously paying for right now. That seems to be a better, more stable platform as opposed to Jitsi, which is free. So I know, right? Yeah, to see information instead of sitting on there's no point in it, because there's there's no reason to sit on it, and I don't know what's going on here. There it is. Hero. See, now my camera's not working, so all you guys can do is just see me see this right here. Okay. Dang it. I'll just do this here. We'll do this. Activate. Okay. Well, now you can see me a little bit. I don't know if GI's gonna come back in or not, but we were pretty much at the end of our conversation, anyways. And I kind of wanted him to finish plugging his stuff, but I'll have him back on the show again, and we'll continue this next week, next Monday, as long as everything goes well, and the moon doesn't fall out of the sky or something. We will continue on with part 3 of how to identify a cult and what are the tells, if you will. And we'll get into specific ones. I'll have some pictures and some videos. I'm sure Jerry will as well, and we'll continue on with this. And then the one next week after that, hopefully to wind it up, if we don't go another episode, is to how to identify a cult, how to identify it next week, and then how to get out of it once you realize that you're in a cult. So we're not just giving you information, we're also trying to provide you answers and solutions to problems. Because this isn't just a political or a religious problem. If you guys can see that it spans a wide variety of categories of this mentality, of this brainwashing, if you will. And my only intent is to get people to see it, and for them to make their own decisions of what they want to do. I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make that horse drink water. You know what I'm saying? So I can information for the share what I learned. GI, I'm not sure what happened, man. It just cut you out. It just kicked you out completely. You can see I still have the lobby open, and it just completely cut you out. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll just I'll just go ahead and I'll just close it out. No big deal. So yeah, and then that way we can provide you with solutions on how to hopefully spot it, or maybe you have a family member who is in a is showing certain types of behavior, or has joined a group, or is in a group that could be a cult like mentality. Mainly to control your mind is what most cults do. Is they feed on you because you're vulnerable and you're weak. And I don't want people to be vulnerable. I don't want people to be weak. I want people to be strong, and I want people to have discernment. Call me selfish. That's my universal intent that I have. My desire is for other people to do well. I know it's very selfish of me to think that way. So thanks to Peach Mall. Appreciate it. Let's see here. The show. There are close to 300 people on another channel that needed to see this presentation. I agree. I absolutely agree. I did comment on when the show was live that MAGA should really take note of the mini series that I'm putting together here, because I think it'd be very beneficial. I really do. But again, they're going to have to make that journey. I can't do it for them. Just like an addict, you can't make an addict, an alcoholic, stop drinking alcohol until they want to stop drinking alcohol, or someone who's doing drugs or addicted to porn or whatever it might be. So, all right, folks. That being said, here's a piece that I read out of the Robert Maxwell ad community. Let me before this chat leaves, I'm going to copy that link in there. Okay. I have it saved, so I'll be able to look at it later. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the show out. Thanks for being here. Most importantly, thanks you for your time. That is the one thing that all of us have a finite amount on this earth, or in this realm, I should say. And I do appreciate you being here, choosing to listen to what we had to say tonight. And I hope down the line it helps you out in the future in a positive manner. So, that being said, thank you very much. Be well, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.